Oh, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Tabletop Impulse, and today we're going to talk about kill team content in White Dwarf. Now, you may reasonably ask yourself, what kill team content in White Dwarf? There's probably people out there in the audience thinking, but Phil, there hasn't been any kill team content in White Dwarf this season. What are you talking about? So just think about that for one moment, because actually, there has in fact been a lot of kill team content in White Dwarf. I mean, really loads. So 21 pages last month. We had Duty and Survival, a short story thing. We had Excess Enemies, Operation Briefing. So this page 56. In fact, more than 21 pages, because page 56 all the way down to page 82. Right? I didn't count, so that's 20 odd pages anyway. But nobody's talking about it. And if you're not subscribed to White Dwarf, then you kind of won't know that it's coming. But nobody, at least nobody that I'm subscribed to on YouTube is talking about it. So let's just see what we're talking about here. So Duty and Survival is a short story. I don't want to go spoil the whole thing. I think with a short story, if you want to read the short story, you should probably pick up the magazine. But there's a couple of pages of Games Workshop fiction there about Kill Team. It's got the Kill Team branding on the page, definitely kill team content of some sort. Excess enemies. Now this is really interesting. So this is 6 new missions, 6 new multiplayer missions for Kill Team Into the Dark. So it's using the Gallo Dark terrain, but it's multiplayer missions. So it says here, on the following pages you will find 6 missions from the Critical Operations Gallo Dark multiplayer mission pack, allowing you to play games of Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team with 3 or 4 players in the close quarters of the Gallo Dark. In these missions, players will share the same mission rules, mission objectives. The scoring parameters of the mission objectives will vary across the mission pack, so having an expansive roster will allow you to select the right operatives for the mission at hand. They've been designed so that tactical play is rewarded, and therefore they're suited to match play, but they can be used in any of the 3 ways to play. To randomly determine a Critical Operations Gallo Dark multiplayer mission, one player rolls 1d3 and consults the table. If you're playing with 3 players, or table 2 if you're playing with 4 players. Missions from this mission pack use the Gallo Dark multiplayer rule described opposite. Well, on my slide it's below. If a kill team battle uses the Gallo Dark multiplayer mission rule, the following additional rules take effect for the battle. Player order. Some rules specify player order, which will establish players as first, second, third, etc. To establish player order, all players roll 1d6. The player with the highest result is first. The player with the second highest result is second, and so on. If 2 or more players have a tied result, those players keep rolling until an order is established between them. Killzone. Gallo Dark multiplayer missions use 2 Killzone Gallo Dark game boards. So the same amount as you would need for boarding actions. Interesting. Creating a 704mm by 1214mm area. I'll take your word for it, lads. When determining the kill zone, use 2 sets of Killzone Gallo Dark. Ensuring the terrain is placed across both game boards as specified in the mission map. The mission map only specifies use of Killzone Gallo Dark, but players should feel free to add terrain features from Killzones that support Killzone Gallo Dark, e.g. Killzone Into the Dark, Killzone Shadow Vaults, etc. Drop zones as a setup. In the select drop zone step, establish player order. The first player selects one of the drop zones first, followed by the second player, and so on. In the setup operative step, that same first player sets up first, followed by the second player, and so on. Scouting and initiative. Players do not complete the scouting step. Initiative for the first turning point is the player order from set drop zone steps. The first player has the initiative, and activation turning points are then completed in player order. For example, the first player would activate first, followed by the second player. In subsequent turning points, determine player order again. If a player has a rule that would allow them to reroll and modify the dice when determining initiative, they can use this rule when rolling 1d6 to determine player order in the initiative phase. And oh yes, and it doesn't use TAC Ops. So TAC Ops are victory points. TAC Ops are designed for 2 players on a single game board. We do not recommend their use in the multiplayer missions. Instead, each player can score a maximum of 18 victory points instead of 12. But if all players agree, you can use TAC Ops with your own adjustments to the Gallo Dark multiplayer rule, perhaps by restricting certain TAC Ops, i.e. removing those that don't function in Gallo Dark multiplayer battles. So I'm not going to go through the whole pack, because I don't know how interesting it will be to people, but it's really just to say it's there. They've put quite a lot of thought into it. multiplayer missions into the dark using 3 or 4 players on 2 game boards. And just to show you one of the missions, I will just show you one. So here's mission 1.2 Distress Call, and you can see it's laid out for 3 players on 2 boards. We can perform mission actions. We can do a comms boost. An operative can perform this action while it controls an objective marker until the start of the next turning point. That objective marker is an alpha objective marker. An operative cannot perform this action while within blue of an enemy operative, or if there are already 2 alpha objective markers in the kill zone. And transmit for 1 AP. You can perform this action while you control an objective marker until the start of the next turning point. That objective marker is transmitting for another kill team, whichever comes first. That objective marker is transmitting for your kill team. Until they transmit it from another kill team. Right. At the end of each turning point, for each objective marker transmitting for your kill team, you score 1 VP or 2 VPs if it's an alpha objective. I mean, it's a fun little mission, right? There's nothing wrong with that. That's content. That's there. That's good. I mean, and if you have friends, you can play these 3 or 4 player games. And 2 sets of painted... It's another reason to paint up a second set of Into the Dark terrain, isn't it? Even if you don't want to play 40k boarding actions. But it's not just those 2 articles. We've also got an article from the lead developer of Kill Team, Elliot. Elliot's a legend. He's at all of the Warhammer World events as well. And it's basically a whole load of optional rules for narrative play. Again, I'm not going to reproduce the whole thing. If you want to read his words, you buy the issue of White Dwarf. But it's like... As the season of Spacel continues, I've been building and painting the interior of the Gallowdark, exploring its depths and battling through its decrepit hallways. Right? And then you just spin on a little bit. He says, immersing myself in this extraordinary setting has got me thinking about all the weird and wonderful quirks of Spacel, so I wanted to share some of my favourite ideas with you and create rules for them. Feel free to use these in games as you wish. Right? So we got I'll give you one example of the rules in this article. So Insane Explorer, at the start of your first turning point, determine each room on the kill zone. A room is an area no operatives are set up in which all operatives can only move into by using a hatchway. The first time a hatchway is open to each room, if an Insane Explorer has not been discovered, roll a d6. On a 5-up, an Insane Explorer is discovered in the room. Do not roll for subsequent rooms. The player who does not have initiative sets up an operative from their collection. Not from their kill team, from their collection. So you'd be like, going over to your cupboard. YOLO, here's a Plague Marine. Just stick him in there. Right. No more than into that room, more than circle from access points and with an order of their choice. Once during each firefight phase, when it is their turn to activate a ready friendly operative, the player who does not have the initiative can select the Insane Explorer for that activation. If it's the first turning point, that operative's order can be changed when they're activated. So there's a guy who's just controlled alternately and just does random things. I mean, is it? It depends on what you find fun. I mean, and these are all rules like this. Like, I'll talk more about this in a minute, but it's really interesting to me. It's really interesting to me. So, it is not just White Dwarf 486. So, White Dwarf 482 had 36 pages of Kill Team content. So, you've got you've got Kill Team Engage, which was, they had an ongoing campaign, a tale of 4 gamers type thing for Kill Team. They've got a story about, some more fiction about Imperial Navy versus Kroot. And then they had, in this particular issue, there were 3 new narrative missions for Kill Team Into the Dark, right? And I've not done photographs of all those as well. White Dwarf's quite old, but all this stuff's out there. They're really giving us a lot of narrative content. Nobody cares. I say nobody. Presumably there are people out there that care, but they don't create content or interact in Discords. So I was talking to Zimbad about this the other day. Like, we were talking about, what the community wants. The community wants this, the community wants that. And he was like, I'm not sure the community wants this. And then we meant slightly different things by the community. Because by the community, Zim was kind of thinking of everybody that plays Kill Team. And I was thinking of the people who discuss Kill Team online, which are 2 really different things. Because the community, in my sense of the word, the people who are discussing it online, like, for all of Games Workshop games, that tends towards the competitive, because you've sort of got more to talk about with strangers. It's not that narrative gaming isn't fun, it's that it doesn't lend itself to it doesn't lend itself to talking about it with strangers. It's like, and there are casual people out there in the Kill Team community. Like, famously, there's the Kill Team Casuals podcast. Like, I enjoy the Kill Team Casuals podcast. I think they're interesting guys. They don't actually spend a lot of time talking about Kill Team. They mostly spend their time trying to guess Space Marine legions from a series of cryptic... Like, here's the thing. If you're that casual and you play a game really casually, you're probably not collecting all the white dwarves and playing the missions and things. If you're those people who enjoy these games really casually, they just kind of put their models on the table and play, and maybe they make up rules or they homebrew stuff and they do stuff. And like everybody that I've ever talked to, I think there's Once Upon a Kill Team as well, and they're always homebrewing things, right? Like, I dip in and out of these things, but there's a lot of homebrew goes on in the narrative scene. People who play narratively like to homebrew. I just don't quite get it. I don't quite get what's the target audience here for people that want the stuff that is not balanced for competitive play or matched play or balanced play or whatever you want to call it, but at the same time people want the issue of the packs, the stratified sets of rules. It's really confusing, isn't it? Because I know there's people that really want more teams. I mean, people really loved the White Dwarf content in Season 1 when we got teams. You know, we got like 4 or 5 teams. 4 teams. I can count. 4 teams. You know, we got the Thousand Sons, the Skitarii, the G-Steel Occult, and the Harlequin Troop in White Dwarf. And a lot of us, me included, genuinely thought, oh, we're going to get 4 teams this year as well. And it just hasn't materialised. Arguably, we got 1, because I keep having to remind people, because a year is a long time, the Intercession are really a Season 2 team. You know? The Intercession are really a Season 2 team. I think they came out a tiny bit before Season 2, but they came out after the annual. So in my mind, they're a Season 2 team. They could totally have counted towards our 4, right? But I was expecting to get at least 3 more through White Dwarf, and it hasn't happened. But we have got a lot of content. It's not like the game is unsupported. It's just nobody seems to care, and it's not even the people I know. Like, I know that Glass Half Dead has a White Dwarf subscription. I know that there are other people out there who are really into Kill Team, and they get White Dwarf, and they get it on subscription in case, like, a new, basically, as an insurance policy against a new team dropping, and they want to get it before everyone else so they can make a video about the new team. And that's literally, I can think of at least 2 or 3 people that fall in that category. That's basically why they have the White Dwarf subscription. And then there's all this other Kill Team content coming, and I'm not saying like Glass or anybody else in this situation is wrong for not making content about it. I just think it's interesting. Obviously, there's effort going in here. You know, Elliot's the lead dev of Kill Team, and some of his hours at work for Games Workshop are sitting down and writing a 4, 5, 6 page article for White Dwarf. Like, it's there. If you're someone that uses this content, then let me know in the comments. Likewise, if this is the first that you're hearing about this content existing, also let me know in the comments, right? Because I don't actually know if there's that much overlap between... I don't know what the circulation rate of White Dwarf even is. Like, to me, I've been playing this game since I was 10, so to me, the amount of coverage a game gets in White Dwarf is quite important. But is that just me being old? Because kids don't buy print magazines. But then again, I run a school club, and the kids don't even check Warcom. They just go to Games Workshop and talk to the manager, and then push plastic and roll dice. And that's fine, and arguably that's how it should be, but all these things, you got to remember, you're just a small segment of the community. I just can't work out what segment of the community this actually serves. And how many people are subscribed to White Dwarf just because, I honestly say I get all these White Dwarfs delivered, and I flick through them, and occasionally there's something in there that I think is really, really good, but do I read every single page of every single White Dwarf? No. Sometimes the White Dwarf just gets flicked through and then put on the pile, and that's it. Like, how many people have just got these zombie White Dwarf subscriptions that they're just like, oh, well, I don't want to not renew it in case something really cool comes out in White Dwarf? Don't know. Let's talk about the annual. Let's get really cross for a minute. So there's going to be another Kill Team annual, isn't there? Right, we're going to manifest Kill Team Annual 2023 in our minds because it's called an annual. And annuals are published annually. That's what the word annual means. I'm going to be so angry if they don't make a Kill Team Annual 2023, because that's like the obvious answer at this point. People go, well, what would possibly be in an annual? Oh, well, they haven't made any new teams, so they don't need to make an annual. Like, it's called an annual. You can't make one and call it an annual and then never make another one, because then it's not annual. It's not being published annually. That's what annual means. It means it comes out annually. I get really irritated by this the closer we get to September, and the closer the likelihood comes that they're just not going to bother, right? Now, Annual 2023, when, not if, when it is released, because they will release it, when it is released, is it just going to be this stuff? Because that is classically what an annual... I don't know if they have these outside England. Oh, the United Kingdom, I should say. But that is classically what an annual is. It's a hardback book that collects articles that have been published in that year of periodicals, right? So I read a satirical / news magazine called Private Eye, and every year I get the Private Eye annual. And when I was a kid, I read a comic called The Beano, and every year I used to get the Beano annual. Like, annuals are a thing. I don't know if they're uniquely British. In America, do you have annuals? Is it a thing in your country outside of a Games Workshop? Do you understand what this concept is? Yeah, it's a book that collects the best bits from a periodical that comes out traditionally at Christmas. I appreciate that the Kill Team Annual 2023 came out in September. Traditionally at Christmas. Is it just going to be this stuff? Are they going to... I've got a friend, member of the Discord community, who's sure that we're going to get, like, between 4 and 6 brand new teams that are just going to come out in the annual in 2023, and it's going to be like, bam, 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 we made these, we didn't put them in White Dwarf for some reason, but here they are. Like, I don't think that's going to happen, I'm sorry, but if it does, I'll be pleasantly surprised. I think maybe we'll get at most 2 new teams. I still think we're going to get teams based on the miniatures inside the whatever the 10th edition Indomitus box is called. I think we're going to get teams based on those miniatures. I don't necessarily think it's going to be Terminators. Terminators be really cool. I don't know, I've said Terminators before, but now we've seen all the 10th edition video, we know that we're getting Terminators, but we also have a pretty decent idea that we're getting like a Sternguard type, Primaris Sternguard type guys with combi weapons. So maybe it's going to be based on Primaris Sternguard. We've seen like Phobos, there's like new Phobosy looking like maybe it's a lieutenant or whatever it is, we're not quite sure. We've seen guys with flamethrowers, but I think there'll be something that comes out that is a new Space Marine team, and crucially, a new Tyranid team based around the contents of that box, which interestingly doesn't seem to involve Gene Stealers. Lictor, yes, it was in the video. Hormagaunts, yeah, but no Gene Stealers. So that might upset some people. I don't know. Maybe we'll see some more White Dwarf. Here's the other thing. We're going to enter now. I realise it seems stupid to say this. We're going to enter now the mother of all dry spots for Kill Team. Because I think that Gallowfall is going to... like we're going to have quite a lot of time now. We're going to have Ballast Date to Slate any day now. We're going to have Gallowfall. We were speculating on the Discord that Gallowfall might go up for pre-order today. Like, I think Gallowfall potentially will be out in 2 weeks, because they've got quite a packed schedule here now, and you have to imagine that sales of things in the 40k universe are going to cannibalise on other things in the 40k universe. They've got to get Gallowfall out, they've got to get the Lion out and the Lion's Book, they've got to clear all this stuff out of the warehouse before 10th hits. They've also got a Warhammer Underworld set to get out, and they've got... as has been leaked elsewhere, the next Warcry box to get out. I realise that. But I think we're going to see Gallowfall quite soon, right? In April, which is the first month, right? So April, May, June is when we're expecting, according to the original roadmap that set out where the quarters were for Kill Team, right? April, May, June is the slot. Because it's not strictly Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, right? But April, May, June is the slot for Gallowfall, right? And then July, August, September is the slot for Box 1 of Season 3. So what if Gallowfall comes out in April and Box 1 of Season 3 comes out in September? Which, by the way, is when the annual 2022 came out with alongside the first box of Into the Dark in September. So we're going to enter a spot here, May, June, July, August. Nothing for Kill Team, I would imagine. Because 10th edition, 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 10th edition. I'm going to be playing 10th edition, you're going to be playing 10th edition, I'm going to be making videos about 10th edition. Everybody that's a Kill Team content creator is going to make at least 10 videos about 10th edition in that May, June, July, August, May, June, July, August. That's 4 months, guys. And it's 4 months where, as far as I can fathom, there's not going to be a lot to talk about for Kill Team. So maybe in those 4 months, they could bang out the 4 teams. Right? They could bang out the 4 teams that we expect for, one a month. Bang, 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 bang. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's not a prediction. It's a wish list. But we are going to have otherwise that massive dry spot where what's they going to be talking about for Kill Team? I mean, I suppose we might get a PDF. If you don't think they're going to be saving them for the annual, we might get PDF downloads with some Kill Team rules for the stuff that's coming out new with 10th. But it's going to be such a 10th edition centric summer that I genuinely believe Gallowfall April, Box 1, Season 3, September. Right? I could be wrong. If an annual comes out with just these kind of narrative rules for Into the Dark and Intercessors and nothing else, they won't sell it. But if it comes out with the rules for just one new Kill Team, exclusive to the book, it'll sell like hotcakes. And traditionally, annuals are supposed to be kind of... I go backwards and forwards because I don't want to sound like I'm not this hyper-competitive guy that only wants to play match play. I just don't. I have a life and I have boring adult things like feeling tired all the time. So, I don't have that much time to play. It's not. If I was playing 2 or 3 Kill Team games every single week without fail, right, then I might want to try some of this fun stuff. But honestly, my brain is too feeble to hold all this stuff in my head. So, whenever I have the chance to play Kill Team, I'm constantly going, well, I'm going to Warhammer Fest in a couple of weeks. I need to... So far, I've played 1 game Into the Dark, right? Because I've been ill, and Zimbad's been ill, and I've been tired, and Zimbad's been... Boring stuff, right? Sorry, I'm rambling now. But, I mean, I guess that's... It's been 20 minutes. If you're still here, this must be the content that you love. Final thoughts. I would love to know if you've actually played this stuff, and it looks good from a certain point of view, right? It looks, and I know that there'll be people in the comments that have already made the only comment like, why the flip are they putting all this stuff in White Dwarf? I want my tyranny killed. Yeah, I get that too. I do. But the stuff doesn't look actually bad. It just, I don't have time for it personally. But let me know. And so, yeah, that's just my kind of ramble, and partially just making people aware that it's there, if it's something that interests them. Like, you genuinely may not be aware that there are multiplayer rules for Into the Dark in this month's White Dwarf, and you might have a gaming group of 3 people where one person always has to sit out, and that might be really for you, and you might want to go and pick up this copy of White Dwarf while it's still in the shops. I'd just like to thank my community for their continued support. Channel is I'm trying to get the channel back on its feet a little bit. I'm thinking of restarting the hobby live streams in about 3 or 4 weeks now, because my touch wood, my daughter has kind of settled into a routine where she goes to bed about 7 o'clock and she's all finished and asleep, and she seems to be sleeping for about sleeping through for about 12 hours, 11 and a half to 12 hours every night now. So streaming potentially 7:30 until 10 p.m. on a weekday, maybe on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Slight leaning towards the Tuesday, but open to suggestions. Join the Discord and let me know. So it'd be nice to get those hobby streams back on schedule, because they give me a little bit of motivation to hobby. I have done some hobby over the weekend, but not by much. I'm still, I keep mentioning it, I'm still plagued by this tinnitus, which may just never go away, but it really bothers me when I'm trying to hobby or read books. Video games and TV, yeah, they take your mind right off it, no problem, but trying to hobby and like get into the meditation zone of hobby, can't do it. So it is a bit of a struggle at the moment. So thank you, yeah, for the people that support me directly financially are my YouTube members. I mean, it's not, I make about £40 a month. You know, it's not going to break the bills. That's not break the bank, pay the bills. One of those two, but it's nice. That's membership plus ad revenue. It's about £40 a month. Like, that's nice for a hobby. That's you know, I wouldn't say no. And then there's just the people that support by leaving comments on every single video. The people that support by linking the stuff on Reddit and on other Discords as well. Which every time I see someone do that, it makes. And this isn't saying go out and spam it. Like, I'm not saying that, but genuinely, when somebody asks like, oh, I think it was the Warhammer Plus rules rundown, and people are like, oh, Tale to Impulse has got a really good breakdown of it. That made me smile. You know, so thank you for all that stuff. It really helps. It really does help. And the comments and the Discord messages and the Discord, join the Discord memberships, and Element Games referral link users as well. Everybody, like, it's like there's a whole army of people just trying to tell me that how much they enjoy the content, and that it really, you know, it's really cool, and it keeps me coming back to it. So thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. Right, I've rambled now for nearly 10 minutes. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to be producing another video on Tuesday. Let's see if I can stick to that. All right, bye guys. Have a good one. Cheerio. Bye bye.